It's September. I'm in the woods, surrounded by trees with the leaves changing color. It's a beautiful hiking day, and I'm smelling the smell of the forest. I'm absorbing the smell of the forest, and I'm also lost. I'm at an intersection, and I'm looking for yellow markings on trees. While I'm pondering which way to go, a young man shows up. He points me in the right direction. I take off until I hear him calling after me. I stop. He comes running up to me. He holds out this purple heart, and he says, "Have you lost this? Did you drop this?" I say, "No." He says, he hands it to me saying, "Well, you should take this as your good luck charm." So what was I doing on the woods on this fine September day? Well, there's 55,000 kilometers of hiking trails throughout Europe. The most famous is the Camino. I had walked the Camino in the previous year, in September, and I became enamored with the idea of walking across countries. So I became a pilgrim, doing a walking meditation across countries, and I even have a pilgrim passport. It has my stamps of places that I stayed or places I visited. So this year in 2011, I decided I was going to walk across the Czech Republic and Germany. I would walk 420 miles in 23 days with a small backpack on my back. I love traveling solo. I love the sense of adventure and excitement. I love that I don't know who I'm going to meet. I don't know where or what I'm going to eat. I don't know where I'm going to stay. And that to me is adventure. My most important task is simply to be present. I was walking through a village, and I noticed in the town square was a map. And it looked to me like there was a shortcut across the river. So I take this dirt road down to the river. I walk up the riverbank, I walk down the riverbank. I don't see a bridge. But I do see a primitive camp, so I go in there. There's a fisherman, quite surprised to see me. So I point to my picture of the map. And he looks at the picture and says, shakes his head, points out a dam with the water running over the dam. There is no bridge. He sees a look of disappointment on my face. He turns over a bucket. He motions for me to sit down. He reheats his coffee from breakfast, brings out a tin of cookies, even brings out a bottle of whiskey and offers me whiskey for my coffee. So while I'm enjoying that strong brew and those stale cookies, he proudly shows me his catch of the day. Even though he and I didn't speak the same language, this trail angel sent me off fortified to retrace my steps. I like to linger in the woods and take lots of pictures. I recall a gentleman had told me, after dark, the woods belong to the hunters. Well, I was lollygagging in the woods a little, and it was getting towards dusk, and I was wondering exactly when this time is that the hunters take over. I heard a shotgun. I knew it was that time. I saw a deer running across the path ahead of me. I pulled out my whistle, and I blew and blew and blew until I reached the safe edge of the forest. And I hoped the deer had reached safety too. I came to a small town. It was dark. It was quiet. Usually the dogs that are out barking at me during the day weren't even out. I get to the last house, and I'm thinking, I can't go back in the woods. And the pension where I want to stay is at least another 3 kilometers away. What am I going to do? I happen to look into this last house in the window. At that same moment, a woman looks out. She sees me. I point to my notebook. She motions for me to come around to the door. I come around, and she and her husband open the door, and I hold up my notebook of the pension that I want to go to. The husband starts motioning directions for how to get there. She cuts him off, and he takes off. So she shows me around her garden from the light of the doorway. She gives me a handful of her prized big red peppers. Meanwhile, her husband shows back up with the car. I realize she's instructed him to take me to the pension. So we get to the pension, There's no light, there's no sign. He motions for me to wait in the car. I see him knock on the door. A woman comes and opens the window upstairs, leans out. I see her nodding her head. I see he continues talking until she finally nods her head. Yes. He comes and gets me and takes me into the downstairs. It's the kids' playroom, and I could stay there for the night. While I'm taking a hot shower, they leave me a cup of hot tea. The next morning, I let myself out. I leave them the prize red peppers, the trail angels I didn't even meet. So I'm one of those people that I love coffee. And usually around that, 3 o'clock in the afternoon time, it's time for that cup of coffee. So I was in the woods, and I was thinking that very thought, it's time for a cup of coffee. It's that time of day. And I see ahead of me, I see a group of people dressed in medieval clothes. I see a horse with some wooden contraption dragging something into the river. I think, am I in some sort of a time warp here? So I watch this activity going on, I kind of walk around the corner, and there I see the spread. It's a movie shoot. I see the coffee urn. I explain to the guy, I'm a pilgrim. I'm walking across the Czech Republic. May I have a coffee, please? I was very happy to have that cup of coffee. The next part was, after I crossed the river, I had to go up this steep, cliff-like incline. When I finally got to the level top, I see a man out in the field. He motions for me to come over. So I go over there. Then he motions for me to turn around. I turn around. I see the river snaking away with the steep mountains on one side. I turn back to him with the gratitude of sharing, and he has the same look of appreciation on his face. So it was my next to the last day in the Czech Republic. And I got lost again. And they logged those woods. And I swear they logged out those trees with the markings on them. So then I just took the logging trail out. I came to a town that wasn't on my map. I figured out which direction I needed to go in, so I headed that way. I went back to the woods. I found some deer trails. I found my trail. And when I finally got to the town that was my destination, it was dark. I saw a young man out on the sidewalk, had my book, Pension, shakes his head, no pension. I burst into tears. I've been walking for 10 hours. I'm exhausted. I want a hot shower. So he motions for me to sit down on the bench. He'll be back, motions me to stay. He comes back with his dad, who speaks German. I speak German also. He explains to me there's a pension in the next village, and they'll take me in. They have a small hut I can stay in. It's only another 2-kilometer walk. I'm ecstatic. I get there, I take my hot shower, I make my way to the restaurant. Turns out tonight is country western night. They're all dressed up as cowboys and cowgirls in the Czech Republic. And they're singing in Czech the country western music. Well, the next day I get up and head back to the restaurant for breakfast, and there's a group of Germans around the table, and I haven't actually had a conversation with anyone in 10 days, so I was very happy to be able to talk. And they had served poppy seed cake for breakfast, and I announced, this is my favorite cake in the entire world. I'm just so enjoying it. When I go to leave, the woman in charge won't let me pay, and she hands me a bag of poppy seed cake. So my last day, it was rainy and overcast, and I was making my way slowly to the end of the Czech Republic. Came about that time again, was ready for that cup of coffee, and I get to the village that's the border town, and I see a house, and there's a neon sign on this house, flashing open. Well, this is Europe, and it's Sunday. Nothing is open on Sunday in Europe. And no one has neon signs. So I go in. There's a gentleman sitting on the sofa. I see past him is a bar. I go up to the bar. I order a coffee. I explain to the woman, I'm a pilgrim. Here's my passport. So she gives me a cup of coffee and offers me whiskey in that coffee. And then I realize I'm in a brothel. So we have a nice conversation. They walk me out, help me back on with my backpack and my poncho, and I cross over the border into Germany. When I get home, I'm unpacking my backpack. I find that purple plastic heart. It has all the heartfelt memories in it of the wonderful trail angels in the Czech Republic. Thank you. I have one more thing. I'm a skirt person. I hike in skirts. I'm also a visual person. So I made this skirt, and these are the pictures from my trip. This is the tree that has the scallop shells on it, and being in the woods and the flowers. And my favorite one is a little guy that says, "Oops, I'm in a brothel." Thank you.